Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our information session on our Addictions Counseling Certificate. It's our newest program at Kent State University at Trumbull, and we're super excited to have our instructor and program coordinator on live with us today. Barb is going to tell us about the certificate, what jobs you can get with it, and some of the opportunities for what that looks like on campus. And then we also have Nicolette from Financial Aid, who's going to be talking about how to fund this program. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Melissa, and I'm the admissions counselor for Kent State Trumbull. And if you're on today and you have any questions at all, we're hoping that you'll take a minute and put those in the comments. We'll be watching for your questions, and we will be answering those live today. Thank you for joining us. Let's jump over to Dr. Ritter for a quick welcome from our Director of Enrollment Management and Student Services.
Thank you. You know, one of the beauties of the different majors at universities is that a lot of majors are Bachelor of Arts majors. And what that means is there's a lot of room for electives. And I try to tell all of my students, don't just fill those electives in with anything, which you can do. I recommend you do a minor or, like we're going to talk today, a certificate. So let's say you're going to do a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. There's going to be a lot of room for general electives in there. Instead of just taking anything, you can fill those electives in with the certificate we're talking about today. And then you would graduate with a certification and also a bachelor's degree. So things like this you'll learn when you talk with your advisor, but just kind of keep that in mind when you're going through your coursework, that you can fill in those electives with something really special, such as the certificate we're talking about today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ritter. Thank you to everyone else who's joining us today. Jumping on Facebook Live, thank you for joining us. We're super glad you're here, and we're going to jump right into the information that you're here to hear about. So Barb is our campus counselor. She's been our campus counselor for years, but now she is launching this program for the Addictions Counseling Certificate, fully offered at Kent State University Trumbull, and we're excited to learn about this. Barb, can you start out by telling us a little bit about your education and your experience in this field?
Sure, thanks, Melissa. First, let me say hi and thank you for joining us today. My education began at Kent Trumbull. That's where I earned my bachelor's degree in psychology. For my master's degree, I went to Walsh University, which is in North Canton, Ohio, earned a master's in mental health counseling. And then after I came to work for the university, I started to continue my education. So I currently take classes at the Kent campus. And that's actually how I was introduced to this program in the first place, because I took the classes and I'm enrolled in the certificate at Kent campus. Regarding my experience in the field, I worked in addictions for several years before I came to the university. Mostly I worked with folks who were what we call, were diagnosed with co-occurring disorders. So their disorders were, they were diagnosed with mental health as well as drug and alcohol issues. And in that arena, I had an opportunity to go into all kinds of different settings. I worked in the courts, in the jail, with mothers and families, you name it. So I've had a pretty extensive career in drug and alcohol addiction before I came to Kent Trumbull.
So you're definitely qualified to teach this program. And I think a lot of people are going to jump on this due to the climate in our area with so much addiction. Can you tell us exactly what is the Addictions Counseling Certificate?
So the Addictions Counseling Certificate program is really, it's a pathway to an opportunity to work in the addiction field. It's a series of 5 classes, and I'm going to kind of pull them apart, tease them apart as we talk about them today. After you take the first class, it's a 7-week class, you are able to apply to the state for a credential that allows you to work in the field. It's called a Chemical Dependency Counselor Assistant certificate. And a lot of local treatment providers hire what they call them CDCAs. Those are the initials, of course. So that's the first 7-week course. And then, so we offer that in fall, and then again in fall. The second 7 weeks of the semester we'll offer the second course in our program, in our certificate program. So during the fall semester, you complete course number 1 and number 2 of a series of 5 courses. Then forward into the spring semester, we offer course number 3 and course number 4, also the first 7 weeks and the second 7 weeks. And then at the end, there's a practicum, and that should take place either in the summer following the first 4 courses, or it might move into the fall, depending on what the student wants and how things are set up. So if a student took the first 2 courses in fall and the second 2 courses in spring, and then took their practicum in the summer, they could complete the certificate in 1 year, 1 calendar year. The CDCA is an employable credential, and many people hire CDCAs. And if you have a CDCA and you're working in the field, you begin to accrue hours. So your hours that you're working count toward something later. So you get your CDCA, you complete the certificate, maybe you're working part-time. And then when you've completed our addiction counseling certificate program, not to be confused with the CDCA certificate, it gets a little confusing. Once you've completed our program, you have the education piece necessary to sit for a state licensure. So if you're able to get a license, it bumps you up in the amount of money you're able to make and the number of jobs that you're qualified for, all those kinds of things. In addition to the education requirement to sit for licensure, you also have to have accrued so many hours. So those practicum hours begin to count toward the hours necessary to sit for licensure. Practicum often, sometimes leads to a job opportunity as well. So students can make connections with their practicum experience. They can get to know other people in the field. They can get a feel for what they're really interested in, because they're going out into the field and work and engaging in these treatment centers. So that when they do get finished with school, they'll know what direction they kind of want to go and what they want to do with that. So to be clear, first 7-week course, you can apply for a credential called the CDCA, and you can work under that credential. You can get the jobs around here, they're pretty plentiful at this point. Complete the 5 courses, and you have the education piece necessary to sit for a higher level of licensure, but you're still going to have to accrue some hours. The practicum hours count toward those hours. I think that's, hopefully that was that made sense. Do you think you have any questions about that?
That was awesome, Barb. Thank you for clarifying like the practicum and the 7-week courses and the difference between the DCA and then the addiction counseling certificate. So that's really helpful. Can you tell us now what type of job, like what would a person's job be once they have this certificate?
So a person with the CDCA, so the first certificate that you can get from the state, they go into treatment centers, and often they'll run groups, or they might work with people one-on-one on individual projects or things that they're trying to accomplish. Once a person completes our whole 5-week certificate program and gets a license, they're doing more almost like clinical kinds of things. They under the direction of someone else, they might diagnose, they might write treatment plans and work on treatment with people. It's pretty extensive.
Thank you so much. We actually did have a question come in. Christy says, I have my phase 1, 2. Now I need my associates in behavioral health to go farther. Do you have anything to say to that, how that connects with the program?
So licensure is also dependent upon your level of education. So not the CDCA, but that license at the end. And so CDCAs are actually in 2 phases. So that's what she's talking about. My understanding is that associate's degree and high school graduates or they'll hold the same level of licensure. Bachelor's degree folks hold a higher level of licensure once they test, and masters and above hold the highest level of licensure once they test. So I would have to go back and look at the requirements really carefully so that I answer her correctly, but I believe the associate's degree may or may not be a requirement in order to have that level of licensure.
Okay, thank you. So Christy, good question. And I posted a link in our comments that anyone who's watching, you can click on that link to get more information about the program. Maybe open that on a different tab. You can be reading about it while you're listening to us. Barb, can you answer another question for us? What types of things are covered in these classes? So maybe what's some of the content that you'll be going over with your students?
So the very first class begins sort of defining addiction, and that gets to be a little bit interesting because we don't necessarily have the same definition today that we had when I started in the field many years ago. Science is showing us that there are a lot of things in play here. It's not necessarily just this person's body is dependent on this chemical or this thing. There's a lot of things at play, and so we go into all of that and try to really learn about it, understand it. We talk about ethics and theories of addiction and counseling in addiction. We talk about pharmacology, understanding the clinical piece and understanding how diagnosing works. We don't do diagnosing early on or anything about it. We talk about evidence-based practices. We'll have guest speakers and hopefully some people from some of the local treatment facilities, so that when my students are ready to go out and look for practicum sites, they'll have information about different treatment facilities, as well as maybe the name of the person who came and spoke to us to kind of help them make those connections.
That sounds like really good information for students. Now, you mentioned the practicum. It sounds like that's the last phase of the program. And can you tell us a little bit more what a student would be doing in a practicum? It sounds like it's the beginning of earning their hours. It sounds like it's a really practical hands-on experience. What else can you tell us about that? So
the way that I'm familiar with the certificate program, the practicum can be offered in different numbers of credit hours, beginning at 3 and ending at 6. So students will be doing various amounts of hours. The number of credit hours you're taking dictates how many hours you're doing in the treatment facility. And so that'll be kind of a case-by-case individual basis working with students. But yeah, those are hands-on, working in the facility, learning what chemical dependency counselors do, seeing how different facilities handle things differently. In our area, we have places that are strictly like 12-step based, and we have places that use medications, medication-assisted treatment. There's just a lot of different things going on out in the field. So it's an opportunity for students to get out there, get their hands dirty in the field, and get a feel for what works for them and what they'd like to learn how to support and be a part of as far as treatment goes.
Awesome. Sounds wonderful. Thank you for the comments that are coming in. Christy, we appreciate your input because it sounds like you've done some research in this area. We're going to keep going with asking Barb some questions, and as those questions come in, we will continue to address those. So our next question is, do you need to have prior experience in the field of counseling for this type of certificate?
Not. And even the CDCA that you're able to apply for after that first 7-week class, you don't have to have any experience in the field in order to get your hands on that CDCA. So that is actually the entrance into the field. That's the way people get into the field in the first place. No matter what your level of education is, no matter what your past experience is, that's the way in the door.
Awesome. We did have another question. This is from Christy. She is looking for some ideas of places to apply to start gaining her experience. With COVID, unfortunately, not many are hiring those with no field training. Do you have any, off the top of your head, any recommendations of areas she could apply to?
Do you mean specific treatment providers? Is that what you said?
Yeah, different local agencies. It looks like she's just looking for places to apply. I believe it's for experience in the field.
So my understanding is that in Warren, there's a place called 12-step. First step recovery. I believe they're hiring. I was under the impression that they were. They've been expanding quite a bit. And I also heard that on High Street in Warren, there's a place called, it's under Compass. I forget what they call it now, but they also, I understand, are hiring.
Awesome. Thank you, Barb, for answering that for us. Last question for you. This certificate program, and for those of you that are just joining, we're learning all about our Addictions Counseling Certificate program today that's new at Kent State Trumbull. It's offered fully on our campus, and Barb, the program coordinator and instructor for this program, is on today. Is this good to be a standalone program or to do in conjunction with a degree? What do you recommend?
Well, it's doable either way. Of course, I'm always in support of more education. So I feel like people who choose to do it as a minor, or excuse me, as an add-on to their major will probably benefit from that greatly. But someone who really doesn't feel like that's their choice, they don't want to do that whole degree, they might look at associate's degree and do it in conjunction with that. But you can also do it, it's a standalone program as well.
I think that's one thing that's super nice about the program itself and Kent State Trumbull as a whole is there are so many different options. Academic advising and financial aid advising and your professors will all talk with you through your options and how that fits best in your life. I know a lot of our students are parents, they are caregivers, they work full-time. So there's a lot of factors that goes into that. And Kent State Trumbull is a great place to succeed. There's a lot of flexibility, and there's also a lot of assistance for finances and coaching you through affording college. So now we're going to transition over to talking about the financial aid side of things. We actually have Nicolette Fenlock on today. She's our Assistant Director of Enrollment Management and Student Services, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how to afford this program, this one-year program. Nicolette, can you first tell us how a student could calculate their tuition costs?
Thank you, Melissa. Welcome everyone watching us on Facebook Live. Thanks for taking some time to join us today to watch live or watch later when you have time. As Melissa said, my name's Nicolette Fenlock, and please save my contact info for all of your questions related to financial aid, billing payment, and scholarships. We will drop in the comments my Trumbull finaid@kent.edu email. I handle that email account every day. We are here and available year-round, all summer long, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, helping our students get ready for fall. So I really hope to hear from you and speak with you individually about your questions one-on-one. Just to give you a general blanket idea of how to calculate tuition costs, your very first step would be to go to kent.edu/tuition, choose your student status, and choose regional campus. This is extremely helpful when you're first starting to explore how much this might cost you because it breaks tuition down at a per credit hour rate. So maybe you're just starting out taking 2 classes, which would be 6 credit hours. Right there, you can see the tuition rate for the semester. Maybe you're thinking, I'm ready to take 4, 5, or 6 classes. You can see the flat rate tuition per semester. Then you can think about how many semesters you might be in school, and your academic advisor can help you figure out how long it may take you to complete the program. All depends on how many classes you take per semester, and you're able to calculate your tuition costs that way. I would be more than happy to help you with that one-on-one as well. Thanks, Melissa. Great question.
Thank you. Now can you tell us how to apply for financial aid?
Yes, so every single year you're going to want to apply for financial aid. Financial aid is available for this certificate program, and I recommend all students apply for financial aid, even if you're not quite sure if you're going to use financial aid or what you might be eligible for. It's free to apply. So you would start by going to studentaid.gov, choosing the 2021 free application for federal student aid, that's your FAFSA, filling in all of your information, and making sure you're sending the FAFSA to Kent State University. If you haven't completed your FAFSA yet and you're interested in starting with us this fall, there's still time to complete it. I would recommend completing it as soon as possible. Give it about a week or so to arrive and be processed with the university, and then give me a call and we'll review any outstanding requirements that you may have or what type of financial aid has been offered to you and what you might want to decide in terms of paying your tuition. I will say most students do use financial aid to pay their tuition, but there are other options. You can sign up for a payment plan and pay out of pocket, or maybe you're looking at using employer benefits or VA benefits. And if that's the case, I'd be happy to speak with you about how to get that set up with the university. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicolette. One more question for you. Is it too late to apply for scholarships? And when is it too late? Because I know some people are probably going to be watching this after the fact. Right now, we're towards the end of July, classes start the end of August. What would you say the time frame for scholarships is?
So right now, this time of year, going into fall, I would spend the most of your time doing an external scholarship search. And if you'd like to learn how to do that, we do have an archived video where we go through step by step how to find those scholarships. So these are scholarships from outside agencies. And this summer, in light of the pandemic, a lot of outside agencies have extended their deadlines into July. So there may be more opportunities out there than you would think. I recommend once you watch that video and learn how to conduct the search, that you do a keyword search and use counseling in your search. Use addictions counseling or any variations of that language that is available in the keyword search. And that's going to help you identify specific companies or agencies or nonprofits whose goal is to fund students like you who are in your profession pursuing your major. So that's probably your best way to search for scholarships at this point in the year, starting fall. But I will say, as soon as we get into October and November, you're going to want to start a scholarship search for the next academic year. That's about the time you'll be completing your 21-22 FAFSA. And that's also when a lot of scholarship applications open up for the next year. So we'll be talking a lot about that with our current students once we get into fall semester. So we're always thinking ahead in financial aid. So just a tip on that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicolette. And as you viewers can tell, Nicolette is super knowledgeable on these things. So her email address is in the comments. If you have questions about anything, please go ahead and email her. Nicolette, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you also to Barb. We really, really appreciate your time. We appreciate the time you've put into bringing this program to Kent State Trumbull, and we're looking forward to seeing the great students that come out of it and how well equipped they are for the field. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our tech guy, Bill, putting this together, and for
Well, thank you, everyone. It looks like Melissa got lost, but if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help. Check out the website, and we now have a chat option on the website too. So thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the day.